the media in many ways has been leading the charge here. I mean, last night on MSNBC, the big story was change the narrative to, Steve Scalise in a hospital room to special counsel Robert Mueller now is examining Donald Trump and whether or not he obstructed justice. So, I mean, that's the story this morning because of the firing of FBI Director Jim Comey. What's your take on that? I mean, MSNBC was wall-to-wall with it last night as their way to change the narrative while so many people are worried about your colleague. What's your take on this story in the Washington Post, which I think our last guest made a really important point by saying the leaks. I mean, right. Alan West said, I mean, the leaks are still there. Who's telling the Washington Post the specifics of the Robert Mueller investigation? But what do you think of that, Congressman?
Well, so number one, if this leak is true, which I don't think it is, we have a problem with the investigation, and we have internal people who are leaking information from the great Mr. Mueller. That's a problem. But listen, I don't think this is true. You see all these leaks that have come out that have come to be false. I mean, yeah, whatever you want to say about Director Comey's testimony, the fact is that a lot of information that was out there that was false, he corrected. So listen, I'm sick of hearing leaks. Until I actually hear from someone with knowledge on the record, I don't believe any of this. I think this was an effort to change the narrative away from Steve Scalise and the shooting in a Bernie Sanders radical supporter who is anti-Trump, just like many of the left-wing media who they don't want to talk about. They want to talk about this other story. And, frankly, I almost feel like some of these left-wing papers will hold these things in their pocket, and if the story starts to go away from a negative one from Donald Trump, they want to pull these things out and start to play those cards to bring it back to their narrative, as opposed to a member of Congress was shot. You can't give that full coverage to Steve Scalise in a shooting. They bend over backwards trying to find a way to talk about Russia every single day when there's no evidence to it. But Steve Scalise, God forbid, we could talk about, members of Congress being shot and Capitol Police being shot.
That's right. That's right. And Rachel, remember the FBI hearing when they were questioning Jim Comey? He admitted that, yes, there was a story in the New York Times about conversations between Trump and the Russians that was not true. Right. Okay. And it just was not true. And he told Trump 3 times, you're not under investigation, and yet he wouldn't say it publicly.
Right. Again, I mean, and my biggest beef with this whole investigation, or the special prosecutor, is he's best friends with Comey. Mueller's. How can anyone say this is an independent person? It makes no sense to the American people. People look at this and they know what it is. It's just obstructing the Republican agenda. Democrats and activists and the media are still just really mad that he got elected.
So I'll just point out really quickly, it's not just the Washington Post reporting, it's the Wall Street Journal, and I wouldn't characterize the Wall Street Journal as being a left-wing newspaper.
That's right. That's right. But let me ask you this. Wouldn't that be obvious, though, to check on obstruction of justice? I mean, why is this a new story?
I don't think that this is any kind of great revelation by the Washington Post, because a lot of attorneys, both conservative and liberal, who I talked to after the Comey testimony, said there's enough there that Robert Mueller is going to have to look into this and talk to Mike Rogers and talk to Dan Coates and talk to Mike Pompeo as well.
Enough with all the hearings. Enough with all this. Let's get what the American people want done.
Real quick, Congressman, are you going to be able to get the agenda done this year, or are we actually seriously talking about a further delay here?
I'm going to tell you what, after what happened yesterday morning, Maria, the resolve and conviction, not just from House Republicans, but even the temperature that's come down from our Democrat friends, and I got to tell you what, they have been compassionate to what's happened. I feel like we are in a place where this is going to continue to move forward. Now, we got to get the Senate to stop doing stupid hearings on Russia and get them to start talking about health care and taxes and infrastructure. When that happens, game on. We are on track. I think we can still get it done. But let's stop wasting our clock on Russia and start talking about policies that help the American people. And by the way, Maria, spend lots of money in Wisconsin. Dagan, let it go. Flip those $100 bills out. Spend and help our economy.
Let me say one thing. I love Wisconsin. No, there are no 2 ways about it. I love this state, and I love the people here.
Eat cheese curds.
I second that.
Cheese curds that are low fat.
Already been there.
All right, good.
I'm vegan.
All cheese heads when we're in
I'm vegan, and I cheated.
You did. Okay,
did.
So you give a little every once in a while. You're not okay. Congressman, good to see you, sir. Thank you.
Too.
Congressman Sean
Bye,
Duffy.
Rachel.
We'll see you soon.
Sean, come home.